Warning. The Maverick Marketer is not for the soft, timid, or faint-hearted. If you need permission or seek approval from your mother, spouse, mates in the pub, or anyone else for that matter, this really isn't for you. If any of what you've heard puts you off in the slightest, I advise you not to listen any further. You've been warned. Prepare yourself for the no bullshit, zero fluff. Quick, dirty, and uncensored secrets for any serious coach, trainer, consultant, or speaker who wants to earn more money with less work and fewer headaches. Without having to kiss ass or bend over backwards to please anyone. He's a relentless and fearless renegade who will stop at nothing to reveal the harsh, unforgiving, and brutal truth about what it really takes to succeed in this business. He's a guy people love to hate and hate to love. It's your host, Drew Edwards. The Maverick Marketer is unleashed.
Well, hello and welcome to another episode of the Maverick Marketer Unleashed podcast. This is Drew Edwards from EliteClientAttraction.com and MaverickMarketerUnleashed.com, and I'm joined by our co-host Terry. Terry, how are you?
Oh, very good indeed, thank you, Drew. Got the hiccups, but apart from that, I'm okay. So.
Good stuff. Good to hear.
I'm not going to breathe for a couple of hours and see if that gets rid of the hiccups.
Brilliant. Good stuff. So if you want show notes, podcast updates, and additional resources, remember to head over to MaverickMarketerUnleashed.com, MaverickMarketerUnleashed.com. If you enjoy the show, number one, make sure that you subscribe via iTunes and leave us a review on iTunes as well. Number two, make sure you're sharing it with all your friends and colleagues, anyone else in this space, any other coaches, trainers, consultants, or speakers who you think can also benefit from listening to a show like this. So subscribe via iTunes and remember to share and let people know about the show. In this week's episode, we're going to be looking at the difference between being the hired help and the paid expert. So the difference between being the hired help and the paid expert. And really what this comes down to is the topic of positioning, which is something that we've touched on before numerous times. It's something that I talked about in my book, Magnetic Marketing. But what it really comes down to is positioning and how you're positioned in the market. And there really, I guess, three main types of position, or three things you need to be aware of when it comes to positioning. Number one is basically how you view yourself in the market. So how you see yourself. Do you see yourself as the best, or do you see yourself lower down? And the reason that's important because it reflects how you price yourself and how you communicate with clients. So number one is how you view yourself. Two is how your competitors view you in the market. So again, do they see you as a market leader? Okay, and number three, and the one that we're going to really focus on today, and perhaps really the only one that's really important, is how your clients and potential clients view you in the market. So how your clients and potential clients view you in the market. And that all really comes down to positioning, and it affects one, how they treat you, but how they interact with you. And also, I guess the big thing is how much you can charge and what type of clients that you're bringing on to your business as well. Terry, does that all make sense?
Perfect sense, yes.
Good stuff. So when it comes to sort of how you're positioned, how your clients view in the market, you can be viewed in one of two ways. Number one is the hired help, and number two is the paid expert. I'm just going to explain the difference between the two. I mean, that's sort of when I sort of talk to my clients about this, the example that I need to use is difference between hiring maybe an interior designer or a typical painter or decorator. So both essentially do the same job. They're there, you hire them to decorate your room. Okay, but the typical painter and decorator just does what you tell them to do. So let's say you want your bedroom to be bright and spacious, but you tell the painter or decorator that you want your walls to be painted black. They'll paint them black, no questions asked. They do what you want to do. They are the hired help. They follow your instructions. They do what you want to do. Okay. Alternatively, you can get hired as the paid expert, which is more like the interior designer in this example that I'm giving. So the interior designer, on the hand, they will lead you through the process of getting the results you want. So you tell them that you want your walls painted black. They might tell you that actually, if you want your room to be bright and spacious, perhaps black painted walls aren't the way to go. Let's paint them cream instead, just for example. And you'll listen to them because they're the paid expert. You hire them for them to guide you rather than for you to give instructions. And these are the two ways that your clients can see you as well. So they'll either, so let's say whether you're a coach, trainer, consultant, or speaker, they'll either hire you and tell you what to do, tell you how to do your job, tell you how to coach them, tell you how to train them, tell you what to consult on, or they hire you as the paid expert. They hire you to guide them through the process. They hire you as a leader. They hire you as the expert who is there to show them how to do it. So, I mean, does this all making sense?
Yeah, it reminds me when I first entered the world of coaching, and I think this applies to a lot of newbies in the coaching, training, consultancy world. You tend to go in with your clients, you kind of tend to position yourself as the hired help, and you tend to do what the client's telling you to do. And I found unfortunately, from bitter experience, it wasn't until you position yourself as the expert that you really start to get the results. Because I know when I first started, and I would want to give my clients advice that from previous experience I know is going to be beneficial to them. But because they didn't see me as the expert, they saw me more as a hired help. They tended to push back and then not implement what I shared with them.
Yeah.
And I have to be honest with you and say that both parties would lose out. I would lose out in terms of the relationship. The client was losing out because the client wasn't getting the results that they hired me for.
Yeah.
So there's one thing I'd say to coaches, trainers, consultants, and speakers, and it may not just be newbies. I know it certainly applies to me as a newbie, but if you're in that situation and the client's not getting the results, but in fairness, the client isn't adhering to your recommendations, that's to do with your positioning, and they're not seeing you as the expert. And I really wish I was taught this when I first entered the world of coaching, because just getting your head around that has made a dramatic difference to my business.
Yeah. Awesome. And again, I'm glad you brought that up, because I think it's a mistake that a lot of coaches, trainers, and consultants make, especially. So again, it's a mistake you made when you first entered the market. I think even you get some of the most experienced people in this industry making the exact same mistakes. And the mistake is that they think that they make the mistake of believing that their clients actually want the hired help rather than the expert. They make the mistake of thinking that the clients want the hired help rather than the expert. And in actual fact, your clients may even think that's what they want as well. And they may even communicate as if that's what they want as well. Well, the truth is that they don't. think it's, well, I first read the quote in one of Dan Kennedy's books. So that's a name again. We constantly refer back to Dan Kennedy. But he said something like, most people are walking around with an umbilical cord in hand, looking for a new place to plug it in. Okay, people want to be guided through the process. So again, for me personally, if I have a problem that needs fixing, and I've tried everything I know to fix it myself, but nothing seems to work, I want to get the paid expert. I want them to tell me how to do it in the quickest, easiest, most pain-free fashion. Okay, I want someone who's experienced. I want someone who knows what they're doing. I don't want the hired help. I don't want to have to tell someone what to do. And again, obviously there may be situations where you do want the hired help, but in terms of a coaching relationship, in terms of if you're hiring a coach, trainer, consultant, or speaker, people want the paid expert. Okay,
Yeah.
Sorry, carry on.
Sorry, Drew. You just kind of hit the nail on the head. Then I was just thinking about our relationship. Drew and I, we belong to a mastermind group, and we have an absolute expert that guides us through. And as you said that, though, I just thought about our relationship with our coach, where now he really is the expert, and he points us in the right direction. And sometimes he kind of, we put the phone down after a coaching session with him, don't we, Drew? And we think, well, that was fantastic. Because he's kind of, sometimes I think he states what I call the bleeding obvious. He says it, but we're so caught up in what we're doing, we just don't see it. And I think that's another point there about the expert, is that when you position yourself as the expert, as John does with us, he really adds to our business tenfold in terms of what we invested in. We get that back several times over, and we really appreciate his expertise in our business, don't we?
Yeah. And again, think about if you need legal advice. So if you had to hire a lawyer, okay, if you don't hire the lawyer to be the hired help. If I ever need to hire a lawyer for any reason, I don't want the hired help. I want an expert. I want someone who's going to take my hand and lead me through the process step by step to get the results I want. Same applies with the accounts in your business. So if I've gonna when it comes to the accounting side of my business, I'm lost at sea. Again, I pay an accountant to guide me through to get the results I want. I pay the hired expert to give me the results I want. I pay someone to lead me through the process. So being seen or positioning yourself as a hired help rather than a paid expert can be very damaging to your business profits. And the number one reason is this: people will not pay premium fees for the hired help. People do not pay premium fees for the hired help. You pay premium fees for the expert. You pay premium fees to be led through a process. Someone who's going to cut the learning curve. Someone who's going to make it easier for you. So if you want to charge higher fees, and you should want to. I mean, the way I always think of it, someone's got to charge the highest fees in the market. Someone's got to be the go-to guy or girl. Someone's got to be the one that everyone sort of immediately thinks of when they think of a problem in a certain area. Okay, you want to be that person. Okay, so
I want to add to that, Drew. Why not you? No, why can't you be that person?
Yeah, exactly. I was just gonna say. So someone has to be that person, right? There's one of those people in every market. So when you think about sales, there might be a person that you think of. When you think about any sort of industry, there's that person. Why shouldn't that be you? Okay, and if you want that person to be you, and you should want that person to be you, one of the shifts that you want to make is positioning yourself as the paid expert rather than the hired help. Terry, does that make sense?
Yeah, and that honestly, is it easy? No. Is it essential? Absolutely. I remember Coach saying to us that the two things that will bring you success: marketing and mindset. And this a lot of this what we're sharing here now about the hired help and the expert. This is all about your mindset, because it's not easy, and some of your clients will push back and say, "No, I want to do things this way." But it's a bit like Drew gave the example of an accountant, or if you went to see a doctor or whatever. They're the experts. The doctor says what's wrong with you, and this is what you need to do. You'd kind of question your own sanity if you push back against the doctor and said, "No, I'm not going to take these tablets. I'm going to take some other tablets because I know best." I mean, that would be absolutely ridiculous. And exactly the same applies to you as a coach, trainer, as a consultant. You are the experts, and you should position yourself accordingly.
Yeah. So, I mean, what we're going to do really quickly is just run through some of the things that you can do to be perceived as the expert. And I just want to make a point there about being perceived as an expert compared to actually being an expert. So it's more important to be perceived as an expert than it is to be an expert. And here's why I say this, right? It is possible to know all there is to know about a certain subject. So, for example, I could know everything there is to know about medicine, or I could know everything there is to know about criminal law, or I could, in fact, know all there is to know about accounting, right? If I don't have that, when it comes to medicine, if I don't have the qualification to back it up, people aren't going to perceive me as an expert. So I could be better than someone, I could know more than someone who has a qualification, but because I don't have that, I think trappings is the word you use to describe it. I don't have that qualification. People won't perceive me as an expert. Or I could know more about law than the lawyer, someone who's actually qualified to practice law. But because I don't have that qualification, I won't be perceived as the expert. Terry, does that make sense?
Yeah, perfect sense there, Drew. Yeah.
You're listening to Maverick Marketer Unleashed podcast. For show notes, additional resources, and podcast updates, head over to www.maverickmarketerunleashed.com.
So the key is, so you may be an expert right now. You may be, whatever sector you work in, you could be a coach, a business coach, and you know everything there is to know about business. You could be a sales trainer, you know everything that there is to know about increasing sales and teams. You could be the best speaker. You could be the best consultant. Whatever it is, you may well be the expert. The key is, how do you get perceived as the expert? How do you make sure that your clients see you as the expert? Because you just knowing all this stuff isn't going to be enough. Okay, you need to have a way. Your clients need to also perceive you as the expert. And again, I bet you can think of people who, perhaps even in your industry, who you know that you know more than them. You know that you get better results than them. But the difference is they're perceived as the expert, so they get more clients. They can charge higher fees. So it's about perception. So way number one, become an advocate and educator for your customers. So again, this is all about, I guess, creating content, educating your customers. So with your marketing or with the Marketing My Business, what you see I do a lot of is education. And even in this podcast right now, it's education. Okay, we like to call it infotainment. So we're giving you information, but also trying to entertain as well. Terry, does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So another way you can be perceived as an expert is to micro specialize or niche. Okay, so again, I mean, we're going to talk about niche in next week's podcast in a lot more detail. But it's a lot easier to be perceived as an expert in a particular niche than it is to be perceived as an expert. So, I mean, if we look at sort of my business and Terry's business, we essentially do the same thing, right? We teach people how to market. So Terry works with recruitment and search firm owners. I work with coaches, trainers, consultants, and speakers, but we essentially teach people how to market. It would be, every business needs to know about marketing, all right? But it would be a lot harder for me to become the expert for all businesses than it would be to become the expert for coaches, trainers, consultants, and speakers. Terry, does that make sense?
Yeah, and at this point, what I will add, I know when many years ago when this was shared with me, I think the saying was, the narrower your niche, the broader your appeal, and you can't be all things to all people, and your role is to become an expert in your particular niche. And I have to say, I found that challenging, because in my head it was like, what if I do that, I'm going to lose out on business, and I want to be there for everybody. And again, sadly, I learned the hard way, and I tried to be a business coach, and I positioned myself as a small business coach. But then what I'd often get is, yeah, but my business is different, and what do you know about my business? But the moment I kind of got my head around just finding the particular niche, amongst other things, the communication to that market is so much easier. And as Drew rightly said, what we do with coaches, trainers, consultants, or with recruitment or search firms, the actual theory applies to any small business, but we deliberately position ourselves as the experts in these two markets. And we certainly are perceived as the experts in these markets now. You know, I can't think of many other people that we compete against, because we don't. Again, we've talked about this before. We don't look to compete. We look to dominate, and it's easier to dominate a specific niche than trying to dominate the whole world, because then you're what we call competing rather than dominating. So I just want to add, yeah, I appreciate your listeners. You're thinking, well, I may lose out on this. And the final thing I'll add on this as well is that you can have more than one niche if you want to. So Drew and I are great examples where we work in two very specific niches. So you don't have to restrict yourself to one niche. You can say, right, I'm going to target, I don't know, dentists or accountants or whatever, but you can have several niches that you can position yourself as an expert in.
Brilliant. So number 2 is niche. Number 3, you can write articles for news sites and profession publications. So again, this is one of the good reasons to have a niche market, because in your niche there will be sort of industry press. So there'll be magazines and websites and other media that is specific to your industry. So in Terry's industry, Terry works with recruitment and search firm owners. There'll be magazines that are made particularly for recruitment and search firm owners. There are magazines that are made for coaches. There are magazines that are made for trainers. So if you can write articles for those publications, again, that's a good way to help yourself be perceived as an expert. Okay, number 4 is writing a book. So again, becoming an author in your chosen field, whatever it is, whatever problem that you help solve. Again, there's something about becoming an author that makes people perceive you as an expert. Terry, I know you've written how many? 3 books now?
I've wrote 3 books in total that I've actually written. Yeah.
So I mean, tell me about. Can you just tell listeners about how that changed the way you position in the market, how that helped you position in what?
Well, I suppose the most immediate thing with close friends is I think the perception was certainly that my IQ had gone up by 20 points or so, which probably took my IQ up to about 21. But all joking apart, there was this perception as well. You must be very clever to have written a book. I don't know about clever. It wasn't. I don't think it was clever, quite honestly. It took a commitment. And what it also does for me is that I have more clients coming to me because they say, I read your book. I've written 3 books, as I say. So they quote particular sentences or whatever from my book. So you also find that you kind of preach to the converted. Conversion from book reader to coaching client is very high, incredibly high. And we did some numbers on this. It's been worth hundreds of thousands to us in additional revenue. What we found is that book buyers tend to be better clients as well. They're more likely to start a relationship with us on the coaching side. And I've been probably offered more speaking engagements or opportunities, I should say, since writing the book than any other time. Now, that wasn't a market that we particularly went down, and I know, Drew, you're going to cover that in a bit more detail, but we've had more opportunity to speak at events. And here's something to consider. I've said it before. Who would your clients rather speak to? Would they rather speak to a coach, trainer, or consultant, or an author of a book? See, straight away, as an author of a book, you stand above the crowds. Thanks, Drew.
So, becoming an author. Number 5, Terry touched on it there, is start speaking. Again, when you speak from a stage, so whether it's your own events, whether you're hosting seminars, if you're not, again, I know obviously we get a lot of speakers listening to this show. If you haven't got speaking as part of your marketing arsenal right now, then doing so will also help you be perceived as an expert, whether you're doing it from a stage, so a live event, whether it's on a webinar, whether it's a seminar that you've put on yourself, or whether it's someone else's seminar that they've invited you along to speak. But being on panels, seminars, webinars, again, it's a good way to help you be perceived as an expert to potential clients.
Yeah, and just to add to that, when you get speaking events, it's always worth getting some photographs taken of you actually on the stage speaking. Images that show you as a speaker with the audience and audience listening to what you say. Because again, the image of that can't help but position you as an expert.
Yeah. Number 6 is to get interviewed on radio shows and podcasts. So again, there will be podcasts that are specifically aimed at your niche. So if you can get interviewed on them, again, that's a good way to be positioned as an expert. So we have people who we interview on this show. I've been on other shows as an interviewee. Again, it's a good way to help with your positioning in the market. And number 7, again, Terry touched on it there, is to use all of these things, all the things you mentioned before, use them to gain trust. So again, listen, when you so Terry had mentioned taking the picture and having photographs of you when you're speaking. Again, when you're an author of a book, when you've published articles, when you niche, you need to use all of these things combined in your marketing and make sure people that know that you're doing these things. Make sure people know that you're speaking at this XY event. Make sure people know that you've been interviewed and shows. These are all things that help you gain trust in your market and help you be perceived as an expert with your clients. Terry, anything to add to anything we've covered so far today?
No, I think you've covered it really well. And what I suppose the thing I would add is it takes effort, absolutely, to get these things in place, but it more than pays for itself in terms of the return that you'll get. Your clients that you talk to are less, as Drew touched on, are less price sensitive when you position yourself as the expert. The actual converting the client into a paying client is so much easier when you're an expert. So yes, this isn't necessarily easy, but it's worth the effort, what we've just shared with you here, because it will make such a difference to your business.
Brilliant. Terry, again, thanks for all your input.
Not at all. Thank you very much for asking me along, Drew.
That's a wrap for today's show. Next week, as I mentioned, we're going to be talking about niche and really having a defined niche target audience and the benefits of that. So that will be out next week. For show notes, podcast updates, and additional resources, make sure you head over to maverickmarketerunleashed.com. That's maverickmarketerunleashed.com. Remember to subscribe via iTunes and leave a review and keep spreading the word as well. Get this show out to as many people, many colleagues as you can. I will speak to you again soon. Until then, take care, take action, be relentless.
Show notes, additional resources, and podcast updates, head over to www.maverickmarketerunleashed.com.